Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to discuss taking charge of one health. Stress has health effect on health. According to physiologists, suggest that people must learn positive ways to manage stress. Some suggestions to manage stress include social support, self-care, and compassion. Stress refers to events that are perceived as challenging, damaging, or threatening to one's physical or physiological well-being. These events are referred to as stressor, and the way people respond to them is called stress response. Everyday people encounter stressor, eustress, and distress. Eustress occurs when people experience positive event but require them to adjust. Distress occurs when people experience negative event and make a great deal of demands on them. According to Thomas Holmes and Richard Rahe, this suggests that any life event that requires people to change, adapt, or adjust would likely result in stress. There are factors that cause stress, such as wedding and having a baby, may be positive event, but they demand a great deal or adjustment, and those cause stress. All the negative events, such as losing one's jobs or death of a loved one, cause high level of stress. Another factor that causes stress is frustration, especially when one is thwarted or prevented from satisfying or achieving his or her goal. For instance, a student will feel frustrated if he or she fails a major examination. Another factor of stress is conflict. Conflicts conflict occurs when a person needs to choose between two or many options. There are four types of conflict. First is approach conflict occurs when a person needs to choose between two options that are both attractive. Next is avoidance conflict occurs when person need to choose between options that he or she finds both pleasant. Next is approach avoidance conflict occurs when a person needs to choose between two options that have both positive and negative consequence. And the last one is multiple conflict occurs when there are more than two options, such as students usually experience multiple conflict during examination period. People sometimes use unconscious strategy called defense mechanism. Defense mechanism to cope up with the pain and deal with anxiety. Beatnik reaction is defense mechanism in which a person exhibits behavior that is done apart from the standards of society and avoid most responsibility of a good citizen. Anyone who is frustrated may also act aggressively, such as destroying things or harming another person. This strategy is called displacement. Another example of defense is denial, identification, intellectualization, projection, rationalization, reaction, formation, regression, and repression.
The physiological and cognitive factors of stress. The effects of stress are manifested in a model developed by psychologist Hans Selye, who proposed the general adaptation syndrome. He suggests that the body goes through three stages of psychological reaction during stressful events: the alarm, resistance, and exhaustion. Alarm is the initial reaction to a stressful situation in trying to cope with the initial effects of stress. The sympathetic nervous system is activated and releases hormones such as cortisol, epinephrine, and norepinephrine that help the body to fight off stress. However, the continued increase in these hormones could also adversely affect the body, such as increase in blood pressure, heart rate, and blood sugar. In resistance stage, the body adapts and fights. The body can eventually suffer fatigue if the stress continues. If the stress is not properly dealt with, the person will experience exhaustion, in which the body may suffer psychosomatic illness, including colds, flu, allergies, headache, muscle pain, as well as those may have irreversible damages to one's health, such as heart disease, ulcer, diabetes, stroke, or cancer, or death. Cognitive psychologist Richard Lazarus, Kikaroly, and White 2012 has developed a cognitive view of stress. In his theory, he suggests that the way people think about a praise a stressor is a major factor in how stressful that particular stressor becomes. Lazarus believes that there is a two-step process in appraising the degree of threat or harm of a stressor and how one should react to that stressor. First, the primary stressor, and second is the secondary stressor.
Stress and the Filipino, the social, economic, and cultural factors of stress. Another perspective in stress is the socio-cultural perspective. In the Philippines, poverty remains a critical problem. Experiencing poverty or receiving low compensation means higher stress level. In addition, according to Ballesteros 2010, research indicates that overcrowding and living in poor housing conditions can be a source of stress. Another example is the traffic and lack of transportation that can be enormously stressful. In the cultural perspective, a person from one culture who must live in another culture may experience a great deal of stress. What is acculturation? So, acculturation is the process of adaptation by which immigrants, native groups, and ethnic minority groups adjust to the new culture, making behavioral and attitudinal changes. So, acculturative stress refers to the feelings of tension and anxiety that accompany efforts to adapt to the orientation and values of a dominant culture. Perhaps the greatest stress is when migrant Filipino workers experience discrimination, stereotyping, prejudice because of racism, and anti-immigrant attitudes.
Sources of coping and strength. Acculturative stress refers to the feelings of tension and anxiety that accompany efforts to adapt to the orientation and values of a dominant culture. Perhaps the greatest stress is when migrant Filipino workers experience discrimination, stereotyping, and prejudice because of racism and anti-immigrant attitudes. According to Ciccarelli and White, in the cultural perspective, a person from one culture who must live in another culture may experience a great deal of stress. For example, one primary source of stress imposed on immigrant Filipino workers in other countries is the need to adapt to a new culture. Stress produces numerous symptoms which vary according to persons, situations, and severity. This can include a decline in physical or mental health. Research has found that maintaining good health has a positive influence on reducing and coping with stress. Small amounts of stress may be desirable, beneficial, and even healthy. Positive stress plays a role in motivation, adaptation, and reaction to the environment. Excessive amounts of stress, however, will hinder performance and decrease motivation. When an individual becomes overstressed, energy that would use for motivational management is shifted to manage stress. The focus of the stress takes an immediate precedence and the motivational energy is focused on the stressor. Perhaps the most effective strategy, though one that is often difficult to put into practice, is shifting from a pessimistic to an optimistic point of view. Research has found out that maintaining a positive outlook on life is one of the most effective ways to manage stress.
Hi, good day. I'm going to talk about self care and self compassion. So, what is self compassion? Self compassion is the concern of an individual with self compassionately, while on the other hand, the self care is the act or approach of an individual in order to treat him or herself compassionately. So, how do we practice or show self compassion? So, today I'm going to give you 5 ways in order to practice self compassion. First, practice forgiveness. Forgive yourself from all the failures, mistakes that you've done in the past. Move on, but do not forget how you've dealt with it. Second, employ growth mindset. Embrace the challenges that comes into your way, into your life, rather than avoiding it. Where in the end, we all know that we're going to face it. Third, express gratitude. Be thankful of what you have right now, but always remember to strive hard to reach your goals. Fourth, find the right level of generosity. For sometimes, being too generous makes us selfless. And sometimes, we are too selfish. So, learn when to give and learn when to receive. Lastly, be mindful. Be aware of the things that happens around you. Never hide what you feel and don't give it a microphone. Just let it out. Be yourself. Express yourself. And always remember to respect the past to build the future, but always mind the now. So, how are we going to express our self care? It's simple. First, take care of your body. Eat 3 times a day, 3 square meals. Have a healthy lifestyle. Enjoy your day. Exercise. Have a walk. Sit under the sun. And relax. For sometimes, we're abusing our body and reaching our limits, especially for us students and teachers.